Yeah, in the very first paragraph of the book, in fact, on the back of the book also, you read this: the most important love language is the love language of your partner, the person in
So
front of
good.
you. And the reason we're making that point and using that title is a lot of people have read the original book, and because we're all self-centered, they've said, well, we read the book and we took the quiz and we learned each other's language, but my spouse is not speaking my language. I don't know what to do. And I've tried to speak their language, and I said, so you're speaking their language so they will speak your language? That's manipulation. That's not
Yes,
love.
yes, that's right. That's right.
I won't lose hope in the night when the fire's glowing dim. I'll just let go and I'll try. Help me walk this road and find my way back home. Find my way back home. Find my way home.
Welcome back to the Famous at Home podcast. It is such a joy to be with you. It's a delight, as I always love to say. It sure is a delight here in this new year. Today, we have a conversation with a dear friend, Dr. Gary Chapman. He is the best-selling author of The Five Love Languages, over 20 million copies sold. We have an incredible conversation about his new book, The Love Language That Matters Most: How to Personalize Love So They Really Feel It. So, what is the love language that matters most? We're going to talk about that. And not only do we get into love language with your spouse, we also get into love language with your kids. And some of the insights from Dr. Chapman in this episode are incredibly profound. You listen to podcast episodes where there are one-liners that you're like, oh, just that one-liner alone is worth the price of admission. And this is a free podcast, so you're going to have the price of admission paid for with so many gold nuggets from Dr. Chapman in this episode. And so I'm really delighted that you get to hear from him as we start the new year. Would love for you to check out famousathome.com. We have a brand new newsletter that is out right now, and would love for you to take a look at that. So you can go to the website, famousathome.com, sign up for the whole new Famous at Home bundle. That is brand new on the website. You can get that starting today. And then we would also love for you to, if you have any podcast topics, ideas for the new year, any guests that you would like to see us have on, please go ahead and submit those as well, or respond to one of the emails that you receive. We have a handful of programs, coaching programs coming up this year, from marriage to tender and fierce, marriage intensives, and the Love Your Marriage cohort. We'll be talking more about that here in the coming weeks. We also would love for you to be able to check out any of the tender and fierce cohorts that Christy has coming up, and also some new stuff for men that I will be launching here in the new year as well. So lots of stuff coming from Famous at Home. We can't wait to journey alongside you in this new year as we help you build an emotionally and spiritually healthy family, not just for this generation, but for the many generations to come in your family. Without further ado, I want to introduce you to our conversation with Dr. Gary Chapman. It is such a delight today to welcome a dear friend, mentor, and colleague for a number of years. Dr. Gary Chapman is with me. Uh, Gary, thank you so much for being here.
I'm delighted to be with you. Good to chat with you again.
It is so fun. I don't know, those of you who have read the Famous at Home book. Dr. Chapman graciously wrote the foreword to that. And so you would hear his voice in there. But we are so grateful for him through the years and the way that you have just poured into our family. I don't know that you understand this, but even just the way you've believed in me from afar and what we do has been so encouraging to us. And it is special to have somebody, when you have someone who believes in you, that you respect, and what that does to your soul. not whether you realize that or not, but you have been that for us. And so thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing. It's been good to, as you say, from a distance,
Yeah.
encourage you all along the journey. I appreciate what you've been doing and what you're going to do in the future. And I'm glad to be with you today.
Well, we're so grateful. And the thing that I want to share, just even as you were sharing here just a little bit ago, you've been at your same church for 54 years. Is that right?
That's
Serving in
correct.
the local church.
Same church, several senior pastors, but
Uh,
one of them was here 39 years. I was with him 30 of those years. And then since then, we've had one, 2, 3 other pastors that I've worked with, senior pastors. So, but it's been a great work. There's some advantage in staying put for
yeah.
the long haul with people. Yeah.
Well, and I want to speak to that before we jump into the topic, which is the love language that matters most. I'm really excited to talk about that today. I just think there's something special about that. We talk a lot to families about community, and we have seen it ourselves within our raising our own children. The whole idea of building local community, and I know that God moves us around, and there's times where it is God moving us.
Yeah.
But I think there's also times where we may say, "Hey, this is hard in this community, or it's hard being where we are," and so we just decide to move when the
Yeah.
very best thing God might want you to do is to stick out where you are and walk through tough times with others, because there's an ironing, there's a sharpening that happens in local community when you wrestle and do life with people. And I just think, in a day and age where there's a lot of, we are transient people, especially within the church itself. For someone to be like yourself, I can't even imagine. You've written a lot of books, but you could probably write one on longevity in ministry and what it means, the stickiness of being in one local community.
Yeah. Well, you have to be flexible
Yeah. Oh, I can
because
imagine. Yep.
things are changing. They don't stay the same,
Yeah.
and we have to go with the flow, as it were. But I've been very, very fortunate in being able to work with the senior pastors and other staff members through all these years, and just I've been very blessed. And people have asked me, "Did you intend to stay at one church that long?" And I said, "No, not really." I said, "When I went there, I thought I might be there a couple of years."
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah.
But
It
I
really
really,
was.
I've been blessed greatly too. I've had that experience, and really, all of my books and all of my speaking other places and all is an outgrowth of the counseling and ministry I've had here in the local church. So, as you can imagine, I'm a strong supporter of the local church.
Absolutely. Oh, it's beautiful. I would love to say, and I think that is true, how, what we put out into the world really is a reflection of how we're living in our everyday local lives, in the communities that we live in and serve. I want to get into this because you are, as I'm imagining most people know, Dr. Chapman's book, The Five Love Languages, has it sold? I think I read 20 million copies.
Yep.
Uh,
Over 20 million now and been published in over 50 languages around the world, which
man,
really surprises me, but it's a God thing.
who would have ever? And I mean, there are people who are not Christians who read this. But I mean, this is a
Yes.
widely circulated book among Christians and non-Christians alike,
Yeah.
which
And I
is
wrote it with that in mind. Moody Publishers had just started the concept of writing some books that were not overtly Christian. The
yeah,
Christians would know this is found in the Bible, but it wouldn't turn non-Christians off. And
yeah.
that's this is one of the first books published under that imprint. Like if you look at the book, it doesn't say Moody Publishers; it says Northfield Publishers. And they
Uh,
got that name because D.L. Moody was raised in Northfield, Massachusetts. And so they decided
wow.
to use that town as the name for their imprint. So, but yeah, I've been very, very encouraged that it has gone into the non-Christian world and impacted so many lives in a positive way. And at the end, of that original book, I do say toward the end, I said, "What I'm giving you is information on how to effectively communicate love on an emotional level. I can't give you motivation, but I can tell you where I got my motivation." And I talk about my
Mm.
relationship with God. So I kind of see it. it's addressing a need that is so important. But for non-Christians, it's also a kind of a pre-evangelism book to say, maybe I ought to look into this God thing.
That's amazing. Yeah, and it's so true because and I think for all of us though, it is hard to even when you know the 5 love languages, and that's what we're getting into today, the love language that matters most, how to personalize love so they feel it. You have this new book out with actually Doctors Les and Leslie Parrott, also dear friends, which is fantastic. And there's an assessment of a deeper assessment, which Christy and I were able to do, which is very exciting and very robust. But before we even get to that, I really want to talk about this because the love language that matters most. I would love for you to first of all give me an idea of, or give those listening an idea of what does that mean, and then just I want to talk a little bit about the struggle of loving well.
Yeah, in the very first paragraph of the book, in fact, on the back of the book also, you read this: the most important love language is the love language of your partner, the person in
So
front of
good.
you. And the reason we're making that point and using that title is a lot of people have read the original book, and because we're all self-centered, they've said, well, we read the book and we took the quiz and we learned each other's language, but my spouse is not speaking my language. I don't know what to do. Yeah, and I've tried to speak their language, and I said, so you're speaking their language, so they will speak your language? That's manipulation. That's not
Yes,
love.
yes, that's right. That's right.
Love is an attitude. I want to enrich your life. And so we're saying in this book, we're saying, look, let's think about the other person, and of course, we're dealing with things in this book that we did not deal with in that original book.
Yeah.
And so I'm really excited about this book. I think it's going to help people who have already read the first book to go much deeper and be much more effective in communicating love on an emotional level to the spouse or the partner or any close relationship.
Yeah, and there's so much depth in this book, that the various dialects of each love language, which we can get into. I think in the very beginning, though, the thing that you are addressing, which I find so important, and I thought about this in relation to even myself as I'm diving into this book, as I'm taking the assessment, I'm thinking to myself, and I feel like I love Jesus. I have a great relationship with Jesus, at least to the level that I have right now. It probably isn't it where it's going to be 10 years from now. It's not where it was 10 years ago, but or it's better than it was 10 years ago. But it's like in our human limited capacity, I feel like I follow Jesus well. I really love my wife. She loves me. We have a great marriage. But yet I still find myself answering those questions from the standpoint of, oh yeah, I wish I would get this from her. I wish I would get this from her. I would rather have this from her. I wonder if she knows how I'm answering this question. And I think that we have this innate part of us as humans. We want to experience love so deeply from our spouse or others, but we want to experience love so deeply. But yet, as you said, yes, we manipulate because we're trying to love our spouse in there so that we get it in return. It's like this selfish motivation to receive it back. And one of the things you talk about, and it's early on in the book, but you give this study. I believe it was done at Princeton on pastors, and they set this study up for it was a Good Samaritan study,
Yeah.
and and the insights into that and how that leads to us. Would you describe that a little bit? Because you describe it as the number one challenge to doing love languages well.
Yeah. And that number one challenge is uh, our own agenda. And that research project did this. They were giving these pastors an opportunity to verbally record a little lecture on the Good Samaritan. But before they left the room, they would we tell them, now you're running late. They're over there waiting for you, so you need to get over there. Well, on the way over there to the other building, they had a person who was impersonating somebody really in trouble. I mean, they were on the ground, and they were kind of throwing up or whatever, and they had to go right past those people. And none of them stopped to help them, even though they were going to give a lecture on the Good Samaritan who did stop and help somebody
Which is
because their
fascinating.
agenda, their agenda was driving them. And so that happens also on the daily basis with many, many individuals, all of us in a sense, because every day we have an agenda. We all have things we've got scheduled to do today. And so my wife's love language might be this or that or the other thing, but I got other things to do here, and we fail to communicate love to the people that are most important in our lives because of our own agenda. And I think we have to recognize that and acknowledge that and learn how to put our agenda on a shelf and take time to communicate love to our spouse and to our children.
And I think it's fascinating because one of the things that you say in there is that our agenda takes precedent over our values.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and so we may value, and I see this a lot in the marriages we serve, where it's like, I know that their value is to have a deeper relationship.
Yeah.
But we live in such a culture today where our as parents, as spouses, we are so busy and overscheduled that we are in survival mode, and the person who gets the short end of the stick is usually our spouse, even though say that we value and connection. To your point, it's like we're so caught up in the rat race that getting the dishes done, getting the laundry done, getting the kids to this activity, to that activity, to getting their schoolwork done, to getting into bed, to getting dinners made, all of the things, we actually miss each other. And when we're missing each other, when we're so busy, we're not receiving love. We're not in a capacity to receive love. And so then all of a sudden, I see how it plays in a sense of the manipulation, because I want you to love me more. You sit down and do an assessment like this, and you're like, well, I wish she would do this, and I wish she would do this, and I wish she would do this. That's in the back of your mind, but it's in the back of your mind because you're already not feeling love, because you're not lovable, because you're so all over the place.
Yeah, I think so. It goes both ways. It keeps you from meeting their need, but it also keeps them from meeting your need because you're never available. You're always doing something, you know?
Yeah.
When you are at home, you've got a project you're working on. You're doing something. And then in our culture today, if you don't have an agenda, you open up the phone and go see what other people are doing with their
With
lives.
their lives. Man, you are not wrong. Yeah,
I
and
had a
it's
guy tell me I had a guy tell me the other day, he said, my wife and I sometimes watch a TV program together, but we don't listen to the advertisements. We put it on silent when it comes to advertisements. And we used to talk in that silent time, but now we both pick up our phone
pick up your
and we
phones.
we we get on we both on our phone. I realize, honey, we're not spending time with each other. We're just sitting here in the same room. This is not quality time.
Yeah. And it's and to that point, so I'm gonna use that point to drive home something that's very important about this book, is that quality time. There's various dialects that you guys that you refer to in this book, and you may know, hey, my spouse's love language is quality time. Well, I'm laying here watching a show, and even though we're both on our phones, I'm spending time with my wife or my husband, but it's like I don't even they don't feel like it's quality time. Yeah, maybe because we're on our phone or whatever. Or it might even be, running out the door. I think you use this example in the book where it's like, I know that words of affirmation are, my spouse's love language. So I'm quickly running out the door. Hey, honey, you're amazing. Bye. Thinking that we're giving them affirmation, when the reality is it actually received? Are we speaking the language that we actually think that our spouse desires?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the big issue, and that's why I think this book is gonna be helpful. Uh, through the years, people have said to me, "Gary, in your book, you mentioned the idea that in these love languages, there are dialects within the languages, but you didn't talk about them. What are they?" Well, that's one of the things we're doing in this new book. In each of those love languages, we are giving some of the dialects within that language, because you can be speaking one like, "You're amazing" is an affirming word,
Yep.
but it's rather general, it's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
it's not specific,
Yep.
and we talk about the different dialects in terms of words of affirmation and quality time, and understanding those is gonna make a huge difference, in terms of be effectively communicating love to the other person. So I'm very excited about this whole that part of the book is especially is exciting.
Well, and even in the assessment, and we'll put a link to the assessment, in the show notes as well. You guys created a very that's beyond the free assessment, a very in-depth assessment, which is amazing. And in that assessment, you have the person rank, anywhere from 7 to 9 different ways of experiencing love. And what was fascinating to me is my highest, one is words of affirmation, and quality time are kind of my top 2. But I found in there were moments where I was pitted in that assessment between, do I would I rather receive a meaningful gift from my wife or hear, that that you're so awesome, you're changing the world. This is just an example, but it was a very general affirmation that I'm like, I don't actually really, even though words of affirmation are the highest on my list, I would much rather receive a gift that meant something than to get this very general affirmation from my wife.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And you
and
don't
that's why I
realize
think
that. Yeah.
that's right, and I think this, sometimes we think that, we've got it down and we're giving words of affirmation, for example, but what we don't know is that in a given week, some other love language may be more important to them because of circumstances. And
Yeah.
that's why I say every 2 or 3 weeks, why don't you just say to your spouse, on a scale of 0 to 10, how full is your love tank this week? And if they say anything less than 10, you say, well, what could I do this week that would really speak love to you? And
Wow.
what they say may be something that's not their primary love language. It's just that the situation they're in that week, this would be the most important thing. But the very fact that you ask them, periodically, I don't mean every day, but periodically you ask them this question says, I love you and I want to make sure you know that I love you. And so I just think it's going to help a lot of couples when they really realize that what's important is the most important love language is their love language. And I
Yeah.
want to learn their dialects and I want to speak it in a way that's meaningful to them.
Yeah, that's so good. Can you speak just a little bit? You talk about it in both books, but just the love bank concept for those
Yeah.
who may be new to that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a metaphor. A gasoline tank in a car, if it's full, you can drive a long ways. But if it's getting down there close to empty, you better find a gas station.
Yeah.
So I'm saying that inside every one of us, there's an emotional love tank. And if it's full, life is beautiful. If you feel loved by the significant people in your life. But if the love tank is empty and you feel like they don't love me, if you're married, you feel like they wish they weren't married to me, life begins to look pretty dark.
Yeah.
And just as much of the misbehavior of children grows out of an empty love tank, much of the misbehavior of adults grows out of an empty love tank. And so I'm not excusing the behavior. I'm just saying that if the love tank is empty and it stays empty and they just don't feel love over a long period of time, they're far more likely to get attracted to somebody at work who is kind to them, who says good things to them, who affirms them.
Mm,
And that's where a lot of affairs start.
yeah.
And so that's why we need to work on the love tank in the family. And so that we can have the kind of marriage we wanted to have when we got married, loving, supportive, caring relationship.
Yeah. Man, that is so helpful. And that phrase that you said, which I think is incredibly powerful, is that we have to pay attention to our own love tank and being able to identify it, being able to be aware of it, is really important because if I don't even have the ability to identify, I find this often is that we don't even have the ability to identify what it is that will increase our love tank. We're so busy, we don't have time to even ask the question, or let alone if we were asked the question, be able to answer it well.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why I think this premium assessment and this book is gonna help some individuals really zero in on it.
Yeah.
For example, in the quality time, there are people who are improvisers. It's just on the spur of the moment. A
Yeah.
husband might say to his wife, Friday night dinner, "Honey, how about tomorrow morning? We just go on a hike. Let's go up to Pilot Mountain and go on a hike and just be together all morning." He knows her language is quality time, so he's improvising. And she says, "Honey, tomorrow's Saturday. I got Saturday already planned. I can't go hiking in the morning." See, he's speaking it because he's an improviser, but she may be a managing person. She likes quality time, but she wants it to be managed.
Managed
She wants
well.
this a date night would be very meaningful to her because now she knows every Thursday night we're gonna go out and do something together. She now because she's a manager. So it's not just learning the language, it's also learning the dialect of that language. And so it's gonna help people zero in and be much more specific in how they communicate love.
Yeah, and I just, wanna repeat those because there are 4 dialects, of time: improvising, managing, planning, and dreaming. And, I had this same, uh, my wife Christy and I have had this same conversation through the years of how we speak to each other, especially in the dreaming, especially in the planning. My wife does not like surprises. She loves to know when things are coming up because she loves looking forward to it. It makes her
Yeah,
feel loved that there's already a plan in place and that there's an anticipation for it happening.
yeah.
And that took a while for me to learn because I would surprise her and then it would not go well.
Yeah, you're right.
Um,
Uh,
which tends to happen. One of the other things that I was gonna bring up that I felt was really important is listening. 'Cause I think it's very difficult in our day and age to listen, especially, and I'm thinking of the families listening who have a lot of kids or they have young kids, or it's like, we don't, all we do all day long is listen to kids ask a billion questions, and then we don't have time at the end of the day. So, what does it mean to be a good listener?
well, I think first of all, I have to realize why we want to listen, and that is we are never ever going to have a close relationship if we don't become listeners.
Mm,
And I don't just mean hearing words. I'm talking about listening with empathy, by which I mean listening with a view to understanding the perspective of the other person and the feelings of the other person. See, just by nature, so many of us, if our spouse shares something with us, like if they say they're having a problem at work today and they tell us what the problem is, we just instinctively say, well, what you ought to do is da 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 da. We tell them what to do. They didn't share that for us to tell them what to
to
do.
do.
They shared it because they wanted to share our life with us. They
Mm,
wanted them to understand us and what happened today and how I'm feeling about it. So asking questions, whatever they say, ask a question. Tell me more about that. I want to understand where you're coming from, and just keep asking questions, trying to put yourself over there. You're trying to put yourself in their shoes and look at the world through their eyes, so that eventually you can actually say, "Well, honey, I can see how that makes a lot of sense, and I can see how you felt that way. And if I were in your shoes, I'd probably feel the same way."
yeah.
And then if you want to say, "Is there anything that I could do that might be helpful?" And then if they say, "Well, I think it would be helpful if you do this or that or that," well, fine. I'll be happy to do that. Or if they say, "Honey, I don't know anything you can do," I say, "Well, I just want you to know I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm with you."
Extending that invitation. Yeah.
Yeah. And now, man, what a bond,
Yeah. Yeah.
but as men, we often want to give them answers and tell them what they ought to do.
That's
and
right.
they just feel like shut down. They wanted to be heard. They want you to know who they are. And so that whole thing of listening is so important in a relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, and I find it, I think it's just very powerful that if we could, and you're given some beautifully, very beautifully, practical strategies to do here. Just even simply taking a few minutes once a week to say, "Hey, how's your love tank? And what can I do?" Um, Being able to listen when your spouse is bringing something forth. I find that "tell me more" are
Yeah,
three very powerful words that if I feel like I want to fix it, I'll just simply say, "Tell me more."
yeah,
I want to know more, like, and keep going, and in what else, and just until Christie's got it all out, and then, yeah, to ask, "Is there anything I can do, or is there anything that's gonna be helpful?" I find that to be incredibly important, but, so often, again, my own agenda gets in the way, and I think it's very practical to think about, what is my agenda here, and what do I have to put aside to make sure that the value of my marriage is prioritized above my agenda?
yeah. Oh, that's so important because we all have an agenda.
Yeah.
Every single day, we have an agenda, things that we need to get done. And often we are getting things done and accomplishing stuff, in other areas while our relationship is just beginning to fade, and it's
Yes.
kind of drifting apart
Yes.
and we're not even aware of what's happening. So, yeah, I think, yeah, I've often said to couples, in your relationship with God, I think one of the most important things is to have a sit down time with God every day.
Mm.
And you're going to say to God, I'm going to read this chapter in the Bible. I want to hear what you have to say. And you're underlining things and going back and talking to God about them. Well, why don't we have a sit down time with each other every day, husband and wife? And it may just be 10 minutes or 15 minutes, maybe after all the kids are in bed or whatever other time works out for you. And say, Let's have our sit down time, honey." And if you want to start out in an easy way, you just say, Tell me, I want you to tell me two or three things that happened in your life today and how you feel about them." And they don't have to be profound things.
Mhm.
I'll tell you one, you tell me one. And so he says, "Well, honey, one thing I did is I stopped on the way home and put gas in the car." And she says, "Well, how'd you feel about that?" He said, "Well, to be honest, I felt angry. I looked at the price and I felt angry." But if you think about it, if you don't count the time we're asleep, and one of us has a full-time job outside the house, at least one of us,
Mhm.
maybe it'd be both of you, we spend more time away than we spend together
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
any given day.
Yep.
But if we don't have a sit-down time and share 2 or 3 things that happened today, we have a whole day of life that we're not into each other. We don't know what happened in their life.
So
It
good.
it just it creates distance. But you have that sit down time every day and start off with that kind of talk, which is an easy thing to do. You're gonna stay connected
Yeah.
because every day you're gonna have a sit down time
And
to share things with each
you're
other.
overtly valuing the relationship.
Absolutely,
You're,
absolutely.
valuing the relationship above your own agenda, and I
Yep.
find it to be, it's so easy to just be like, "Well, I'm tired, I gotta get to bed," or, "We gotta get dinner on the table," or, "We gotta," man, just fighting for that time. If your marriage genuinely matters, then it matters.
Yep,
That
absolutely.
it's gotta matter. That time has gotta matter.
Yep.
I also find it, and I'd love to just jump to this a little bit. By the way, we're putting in the show notes the assessment. We found it to be unbelievably helpful for putting language around and learning what it is specifically that we need at any given time. It just takes you way deeper than just knowing the five love languages generally. So I highly encourage that assessment. We'll put it in the show notes today for you to be able to go take. And one of the things I wanted to share, and this is something I believe this assessment will be something that we use now, which is really cool for any of our marriage intensives that we do. We'll be able to use this and gain a lot of insight and be able to coach around it. to be able to coach a couple through it. So we're really grateful for it from that vantage point as well. I do want to make a quick transition here because I think it's important that for those of you listening, yes, you're married, but there's also maybe single or solo parents listening, or you're a parent, you're just saying, hey, does this apply to my children? And how do we, manage, how do we do this with the children? I would say a resounding yes. And one of the most useful takeaways for me from this is not just connecting with Christy, but even talking to your kids. So we have a weekly meeting with our kids where we go over the week ahead. We ask them, what is it that you need from mom and dad this week? But I've never asked the question of we've simply asked, what do you need from mom and dad? But to ask, "Hey, how is your love tank?" And I know especially for my daughter, this will be an incredible question to ask. Any insights that you would give to parents as it relates to helping their children? Because earlier, one of the biggest quotes that sticks out to me is, "If you're not feeling loved, when a child doesn't feel loved, it's shown in their behavior." And same for an adult. When they don't feel love, it's shown in their behavior. Would love for you to speak, if you don't mind, just for a little bit, to parents as it relates to these love languages.
Yeah, I've often said to parents, the question is not, do you love your children? We love our children by nature. The question is, do your children feel loved?
So good.
And so I think this is why it's so important for parents to understand this concept. That's why I wrote the second book in the series I wrote was the 5 love languages of children, and the third one was the 5 love languages of teenagers,
Yeah.
helping parents realize how important this is. And it's not that you only speak their primary love language. No, no, no. You give heavy doses of their primary love language, but you speak all 5 because we really want our children to learn that you can all 5 of these are ways to express love to people.
Yeah.
And then we want them also, as they grow up, to learn how to speak all 5 of these. Most of us did not receive all 5 of these growing up. So we come to adulthood and we don't know how to speak some of these. But the good news is we can learn as adults, even if we didn't receive them. But so I think that's why parents need to think in terms of I want my children to feel loved, and I want them to understand that there's different ways we express love, and I want to understand what their primary love language is. And at the 5lovelanguages.com website, there is a free quiz for teenagers, and then there's a free quiz for children. And if they're younger and can't read, you can ask those questions to them and determine it. But here are 3 informal ways of discovering a child's love language. One is observe their behavior. How do they respond to you and other people? As a matter of fact, I think you can see a child's love language by the time they're 4 years old, just
Mm.
by observing their behavior. For example, my son's love language is physical touch. When he was that age, I'd come home from work. He would run to the door and grab my legs and climb on me. He's touching me because he wants to be touched.
Yeah.
Our daughter never did that. At that age, she would say, "Daddy, come into my room. I want to show you something." She wanted quality time. She was asking for quality time. So observe their behavior. And then what do they complain about most often? The
Oh, that's
complaint
good.
reveals the love language. I had a lady tell me recently, she said, "My 6-year-old son said to me, 'We don't ever go to the park anymore since the baby came.' He used to have his mother's undivided attention,
Time.
quality time at the park. Now the baby's here. He's complaining. He's not getting his love." So what do they complain about? And then what do they request of you most often? What do
Oh,
they
good.
request most often? My daughter's most common request as a teenager was, "Dad, can we take a walk together after dinner?" She's asking me for quality time. My son would never walk with me. He said, "Walking's dumb. You're not going anywhere. If you're going somewhere, drive." His most common request was, "Dad, can we play basketball after dinner?" And the way we played basketball, we'd run into each other and hit each other.
Ah, there you go. There you go.
But if you put those 3 things together, you can pretty well figure out what a child's primary language is. And you give heavy doses of that, but you also speak the others so that they realize that there are different ways. And you share with the whole family. All of us have a love language. And daddy has a love language. So let's learn how to speak love to daddy. Mommy has a love language. And and sister has a love language. And so if they grow up with this concept, man, we're setting them up for success in adult relationships.
Yeah, boy, you're not kidding. Man, I get convicted about even just listening to you label those 3. I'm thinking in my brain of just ways that my kids are things they're complaining about or what they're requesting, and I'm going, "Okay, I've got to do a better job of putting aside my agenda in a day." And that's a tough balance because,
Yeah.
we've got 3 kids. I've obviously got my wife too, and it can get hard, but I think what's doable is really important, and in doing what matters, and I love the idea of, at least in my brain, what works is that 10 to 15 minutes, which one of the things we stress a lot with spouses is that 10 to 15 minutes a day. And then it doesn't even necessarily need to be once a day, but at least if you have a once a week family meeting where every child has an opportunity to share, what's going on in their world, and that we could be a little bit more observant of their, as you said, their behaviors and complaints and requests, that we can identify throughout the week what that is. And you know, to me, I love starting the year on our podcast with this conversation and having you on. I really thank you for your time. It's really important for me because you know, over the holiday, I was standing outside and the moon. It was late. We had a big bonfire going. I was burning some brush, and so this big fire is going, and I'm standing there. The moon's shining down, and when it's kind of like the psalmist, who am I, before all the stars, like, who am I, God, that you would have be mindful of me? Who am I that you would, and and experiencing his love. And I'm standing there and I'm going, what's fascinating about this is we're in the holiday, we're in vacation, and I just had this moment of, there's absolutely nothing more important on this planet. We're called to build the kingdom of God, but that starts with my wife and my kids. And who I am as a father and a husband, man, that's everything to me. And I had this overwhelming sense of, you know, everything else I could surrender it, but it's like, it doesn't, this is what matters. And I've got I don't know, I just I'm just, I feel like that's the thing that resonated with me over the holidays, and it's very easy for us to get back into our rhythms and just miss what really does matter to us. Because if you're listening to this podcast, I guarantee it matters to you, or you wouldn't be listening to this podcast.
Yeah.
And so, how can we circle back? And Gary, I just thank you so much for your wisdom and expertise and knowledge and putting out into the world what you are, because it's changing so many lives, including my own. So thank you for these perspectives. I do want to give you last word here. Any other insights you want to share? And also, would you tell us, yeah, where to go? You said fivelovelanguages.com. Anywhere, anything else that you want to share, as I will put this in the show notes as well. The 5 love languages that matters most, how to personalize love so they really feel it. Go get yourself a copy of that. That will be in the show notes as well. Dr. Chapman, I'm going to turn it over to you and give you the last word.
Yeah, I would encourage them to go to that website, fivelovelanguages.com, because there you can get to see all of my books, and you can order them there, or you can order them on Amazon, or wherever you buy books. And if you want to receive a weekly email from me, you can get on the list, and we can send that to you as well. Uh, I would just say what you just said, really, and that is, we have to make marriage a priority.
Hmm.
Otherwise, we're going to wake up when our kids are grown and gone and realize, hmm, wish I had done this, wish I had done that. One of the most sobering questions I ever asked myself when our children were growing up, what if my children grow up to be like me? And I would ask that about everything. What if they drive a car the way I drive a car? What if they handle their money the way I handle my money? What if they have the kind of relationship with God that I have? And I made some significant changes along the way by asking that question. What if my children grow up to be like me? So you might you might take a moment and do that sometime.
Man, it is such a powerful question. Whew, we're gonna let that land. We're gonna let that land. Yes. Thank you for that. Man, what a challenge. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, everything will be in the show notes today. The love language that matters most, how to personalize love so they really feel it. 5lovelanguages.com. Dr. Chapman, thank you once again for what you're putting out into the world and the way that you're influencing us. We really appreciate your time.
Well, thank you. I enjoy being with you today, and I appreciate what you are doing, have done, and will do. So
Well,
God bless you, because you're making an effort to really balance life and work and ministry and all that together, and that's what all of us have to do. So God bless you. Keep up the good work.
thank you, my friend. It means a lot. Until next week, keep in mind that the greatest red carpet you will walk is through your front door. We'll see you next week.